welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today we'll be discussing keep or sell for every single Real Madrid player. We're obviously now in the end times of the season, nothing really that much left to play for, although Barcelona did mess up yesterday against Inter in the Champions League semi-final, and we've got El Clasico coming up on the weekend. Maybe, just maybe, we can hope that Barcelona's morale is a bit damaged after that Inter game. Maybe we can ask for a little bit of a cock-up on the weekend from Barcelona against us. Hopefully we can beat Barcelona and just pile on a little bit of pressure in the final two games of the season. So, what do you expect from Real Madrid in this final run-in?
Yeah, I think this is a must-win game against us. I know this is a must-win game against Barcelona. We have to win. Anything other than a win, then the league is over officially. But I do expect us to give a lot of effort and maybe portray some of the attitude that we had last season in the game against Barcelona. Hopefully we are more organized. At least we always know it's good to move forward, but sometimes you just have to take that step back, to catch the team a bit, before we take that step forward next season. And we have to go back to what won us the League and Champions League last season if we have any chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the players, because there's been a lot of ups and downs this season for a lot of different players, and so we're going to look at each of the players in the first team. I'm going to discuss their futures at Real Madrid. So let's start with the goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois. No doubt we're going to keep, but let's move on to Andrew Lunin, because there's been rumours about us potentially signing Joan Garcia from Espanyol, and that he's a very good goalkeeper. Joan Garcia, he's a good La Liga level keeper, probably around the same level as Andrew Lunin, which could suggest that Andrew Lunin is preparing to leave. Obviously, Andrew Lunin, in my opinion, is a starting level goalkeeper for a lot of the Champions League clubs. So playing second fiddle to Thibaut Courtois is quite it's not the best situation for him in my opinion. So I wouldn't hate him for leaving. I think that's completely fair. But if he does want to stay, I would 100% keep him, because there is no better backup goalkeeper in the world than to have Andrew Lunin in. So, what are your thoughts on Andrew Lunin?
I have to say, I agree with you 100%. I think Lunin is the person who we would want to give the minutes to, due to the love that us Madrid fans have for him. If Courtois is getting injured a lot, which he's getting injured a bit more this last season, these past 2 seasons, I would want the minutes to go to Lunin, but Courtois, despite the fact that he didn't have his best of seasons, when I mean his best of seasons, he had a 9 out of 10 season. He normally has like a 9.5 or 9.8 season. He had a 9 out of 10 season, in my opinion. It's not as good as maybe a season 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but it's still amazing, and he just came back from an injury. I still expect him to have another 9+ season again, because he's that good, and I won't trade him for any goalkeeper, whether it's Alisson. So we can excuse a 9 out of 10 season, because still one of the best in the team. But if he's getting injured, then he should definitely still be a Madrid player, but we definitely need a keeper with backup. I don't want to change the goalkeeping situation too much if Courtois is getting injured a bit more. So I think I'd want to stay. I think he will still get some games next season as well, because I do expect maybe, unfortunately, it's just a truth that Courtois might struggle with some more injuries. He's not getting any younger, but as long as he can maintain his level, then we can have 2 good goalkeepers. I have no see what both of them stay.
Yeah, 100%. And long may it continue, because he's about to get renewal as well. And so that will take him for a couple more years as well. So, yeah, Courtois and Lunin for both of us keeps. Next, we're going to move on to the fullbacks. Dani Carvajal is, in my opinion, going to stay. I think for all he's done, even if he is coming off an ACL, he is still, for me, a keep. And then Lucas Vazquez, at the end of his contract running down, obviously the Trent has now been announced. We'll have a complete in-depth analysis of Trent coming out in the next few weeks, probably close to the end of the season. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Lucas Vazquez and Dani Carvajal? Because for me, Carvajal, easy keep, but Lucas Vazquez is a difficult one, because personally I would keep him just to have him around the squad, even if it is just as a cheerleader. I think is completely fine if you have him on a low wage. And as a third choice right back, I don't think that's that bad. I don't mind having Lucas Vazquez around, but it does look like the club is going to cut him and get rid of him at the end of the season.
Yeah, I share the exact same sentiments towards you. I have no see Lucas Vazquez playing some games and playing in the Copa del Rey and coming on in the last few minutes and maybe being a backup. What I had yesterday was him starting matches. We said that through the season he can't start against Barcelona, at least now. Last season he could have. But now he cannot start against Barcelona. Now he cannot play against Liverpool or Inter Milan, PSG, whoever is a big team. He showed us that this season he cannot start against these big teams. So it is no issue with him staying in the squad. We like him. It's just that he can't deliver like he used to. And if we can have him in the squad for leadership or just to keep the squad morale high, then that's good. He's an excellent person to have in the squad. So I have no issue with both Carvajal and Lucas staying. But I think with Lucas, the main thing is if you're going to use the academy and the plan is to use Jesus Fortea or Aguado, then yeah, he should leave. But if not, and you're going to sell these guys or loan them, then yeah, he should stay one more season.
Yeah, and then let's talk about the left backs as well, because this is where things get a bit difficult. Because we start with Ferland Mendy. I am 100% selling if the opportunity comes, but the problem is the opportunity is not going to come. There's nobody in world football, even Saudi Arabia. I don't see what the appeal is to sign Ferland Mendy, a guy who cannot attack, and at this point in his career can't really defend either. So it's just like there is no appeal for a Saudi club to get a defensive left back, and there's no appeal for a European club to get a guy who's got such high wages, is so injury prone, and at this point of his career is really inconsistent. I just don't see a way in which we can shift him, even though I would love to. Fran Garcia is, I think, a different situation, because I think Fran Garcia is a good fullback. The problem is I don't think he's got the skill set that is required for Real Madrid. I think his skill set of being so quick, so really good at getting forward, I think is perfect for a club like, let's say, Atleti. But at Real Madrid, that skill set is less appreciated. You need to be a bit smarter on the ball, and I just don't think Fran Garcia is that. So it does look like, I think, there's been a lot of rumours about him going to Bournemouth at the end of the season to link up with Iraola again. I think that would be a great move for him. But I think I would have to, in my opinion, I think shifting one of these guys is really important this summer so we can bring in an actual quality left back like Alvaro Carreras has been the guy discussed. I think we need to shift one of these guys this summer. I would prefer it to be Ferland Mendy because I still think Fran Garcia has plenty of value, as he's proved, but it's just impossible to shift Ferland Mendy at this point, and you're just probably going to have to wait out his contract until 2028. So it's an unfortunate situation that you gave him a renewal for the end of last season, but that's now the cards we've been dealt, so we're just going to have to deal with that now. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the two left backs?
I remember last podcast we did, maybe at the start of the season, during the season, at the end of last season, I can't remember when. I think it was after the Clasico loss, and I said that Ferland Mendy was finished. I think it was a bit drastic at the time, but it's still a sentiment that I share, that I don't want Mendy in the squad. Most likely he might be in the squad, but for me I would sell him. Number one, because we are depending on him as a starting left back, but then he's not there for the big games. And when he is back for the big games, he's barely fit and he gets injured, or he's just not 100% and can't be at his best. If you are a starter for a big team, you have to be reliable and you have to be there. It's availability, that's a big thing. Availability is a big thing. So it gives you opportunities, continuity. It's what keeps you at the club for a long time. He doesn't have that anymore. I don't care how good he can be, how better he is than Garcia defensively or whatever. I don't think that he should be in the squad any longer. It's best maybe we sign someone and then keep Fran as a backup. Because we know he's available, at least he's reliable sometimes, especially in the lesser La Liga games, he's a good left back to have. Of course, he's not Madrid quality defensively. The Arsenal second goal was atrocious that he conceded. Garcia, that is, sometimes he lapses in concentration, and it's not like he has the not just Fan, but also Lucas, not like they have the offensive capability, to make up for their defensive weaknesses, So, of course, he is not a starter for Madrid, but he's a good backup, similar to Lucas. And he's also a good squad player. He's a good guy so far from what I've seen. And in my opinion, he's shown me a higher level than Fulham Mendy this season. And for me, Mendy out and Garcia.
Yeah, and I think one thing that might play into the minds of the Real Madrid board is Miguel Gutierrez is probably on his way to Atletico Madrid this season, so that's obviously a big thing. That's another ex-Madrista going to Atleti. It's obviously that removes an option for us, a really good option potentially. 8 million, it's cheap, easy. It's now probably going to be off the board. So if we are looking to shift a left back, then that's one less good option that we've got. So it's a difficult situation at left back, but it's whatever.
Yeah, and before we get into centre back, let me just mention that whether Xabi Alonso whether he comes to Madrid or not, if he plays a back three, I think it's going to work out well for someone like Carvajal coming back from an injury and maybe play right centre back. So that's why one of the reasons as well why, in my opinion, Lucas should stay and Garcia should stay as well, because they can both be options in those full-back positions if need be. Because full-backs are important in modern football, and we all know Xabi Alonso utilize them. Whether it's a back five or back four, I think they'd be useful. If it's a back three, I think Carvajal has the skill set to be player in the right centre back position and a back three. But I just had to mention that before we move on to the centre backs.
Yeah, and just to add on to your point as well, because yesterday we watched Inter, so many old guys in their defence, and I look at that and I say potentially Dani Carvajal can do some of the stuff that, I don't know, Darmian did yesterday, who's definitely not got pace.
Aspilicueta could do it, Carvajal could more do that.
Yeah, exactly. So these right backs who maybe lose a step in terms of their pace, they can definitely play centre back, because Dani Carvajal's definitely got the instincts to play, and he can definitely help cover for someone like Trent. So it's a potential idea for Xabi Alonso if he decides to deploy a back five next season. Let's talk about the centre backs, because we got a huge issue with all of our guys injured basically. Start with Eder Militao, because right now, coming off the second ACL injury, he's probably going to have lost a step by this point. 2 ACL injuries is just brutal. But I'm still going to stay by his side. I still have faith, because I believe that he can come back, even if it is a really bad injury. Raul Asensio, obviously, it's a new contract in my opinion. There's no doubt he should be staying. And then Antonio Rudiger is a more difficult situation. There's been a little bit more increasing sentiment that Antonio Rudiger should possibly leave. I still think he's valuable, very valuable to have in the squad. So for me, I think Antonio Rudiger stays again. His contract does run out at the end of next season, so 1 year left. I think that's something to investigate. Maybe you shouldn't go ahead and extend that by too long. Obviously, we're not going to extend a 30-year-old by more than 1 year. And then lastly, David Alaba. I think this is the one you have to sell David Alaba. That wage is ridiculous. He is amongst the highest earners not only at Real Madrid but in La Liga as well. He is just soaking up wages. He isn't very good anymore. He's constantly getting injured. This current injury that he's got with his meniscus is something that's going to keep coming up again. So I think David Alaba has to be someone that you shift at the end of this season. Try and shift to Saudi Arabia at the end of this season. And then you look to get in a new centre-back. Dean Huijsen is probably not going to come to Real Madrid at this point, because Florentino Perez is being an idiot. But we're talking about Saliba, we're talking about Konate potentially. I think I would be more than happy just to let go of Alaba, even if it is just for a free. I think you just need to get that wage off your books, in my opinion. So, what are your thoughts on the fourth? And I forgot about Vallejo as well. Just let that run out, and then that's it. So, what are your thoughts on those 5 centre backs?
The good news is that Vallejo is leaving.
Yep.
So that's good. We don't have to think about that. Maybe Vallejo is better than Alaba now. You never know. But I would adjust him first, because that's the technical one who's going to take him with that wage. But if I'm being honest, Alaba seems like the type of guy who wants to be important because of his history of being one of the best players in his position throughout his entire footballing career. So I think if he's not getting game time, I think he's not one of my brilliance. He doesn't seem or strike me as one who's going to sit out just to get the money. But I do feel a bit bad for him, the criticism that he has gotten. He just came out from an injury. Ancelotti made a bad choice in throwing him into a big game. And that costed us a season against Arsenal on 2 occasions.
Yeah, 2 separate times.
Yeah, then he also made the mistake of starting him against Betis, over Asensio. It's not Alaba's fault that Ancelotti make those decisions. As a player, you want to play, but Eder Militao was eased into the season and he had a bad game against Villarreal last year in the 4-4 draw, and he was substituted for Nacho. Alba had some good, like a couple of good games now. And of course, the bad ones, just like Militao last year. So for me, yes, I think it's a bit harsh, to sell him after he just came back from an injury. I think for me the best thing, just let him see out there, see how it goes. If he wants to,
this is Alaba.
Yeah, Alaba, yeah. If he wants, because let's be honest, he's not going to go anywhere. If he's getting game time, you never know, he can come back good. But for me, maybe if there's an option to sell, then yes. But I'm not against keeping him. He's a good leader in the squad. Let's say he has a decent enough last year, then we can renew him on like half wages or something like that. But he's a player like Alaba. If it's a back three or a left centre back, maybe he can be a good option. Yes, if the option is to sell him and get those wages off, get a new centre back in. Yes, it's an opportunity to take, but I'm not against keeping him. In addition to the guy, yes, he's been reliable, so he deserves an extension as well. Even if it's another 1 or 2 years, he deserves an extension. I have the same sentiment with Militao. We have to have faith in him. He's young. But of course, if it keeps happening, he just signed a contract as well. If it keeps happening, then we can maybe discuss how his performance is at the end of next season and decide if him staying is best for the future. In addition to Asensio, he's a starter in my opinion. He has to be a starter next season. Whether it's a back 3 or back 2, he has to start over. I think we should prioritize him over the other 3 guys. In my opinion, he should be a starter. The only person who maybe we should consider higher than him is Antonio Rudiger, because how good he was over the past 2 seasons, or even 3 seasons when everyone was falling apart. He has been there, and he's this injury, playing through injuries and being reliable. So those 2 are my starters if it's a back 2, and they would be the sure picks. So yeah, we need a centre back. We can't keep depending on Sherman. He was needed in midfield. So if Alaba has to leave for us as a centre back, I'm all for it. So I'm going to end by saying that.
Yeah, I mean, Asensio is one of the only good things that have come out this horrible season for us. So yeah, I 100% agree. He should be the starter next season, but I have a funny feeling that maybe Militao will be tried.
Yeah, and let's not forget Yakubu Ramon. Maybe he should get a loan spell as well. He's had a difficult debut as well. Maybe he just needs a loan, just like Rafa Marin, just to be a reliable La Liga defender. And let's see how Joe Martinez returns. Hopefully he can get some minutes with Castilla next season. It's difficult to rush him back, but if he comes back top level, it's going to save us a lot of money. But we can't rush him back. We can't expect him to jump back into the first team like some of the reports are saying. We have to see his level, give him some time with Abelo or Castilla's team and see how he develops. But his performance in the preseason showed that he can definitely has the mentality and the defensive IQ to be a good defender. But let's see how he comes back.
Yeah, Jacobo Ramon, in my opinion. I mean, the criticism he got against Celta, I think, was quite unfair, to be honest. I don't think he was at fault for either of the goals. But that's just how it is. He comes on and then we concede 2. It just seems like too good a correlation.
Listen, the so done was this season. For me being upset with Jacobo for that, it's just small-minded thinking. He's a good defender. He has been one of our best centre-backs in Castilla, or maybe even the best. So to criticize him when Lucas Vasquez and Fulham and they have been doing absolute nonsense, I would say, for lack of a better word, all season. And some guys maybe making bad defensive choices. I would like to say that, I'm not going to criticize a young player. few and maybe two difficult cameos with Madrid.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a loan spell to the second tier, I think, would be the best move for him rather than throwing him into a relegation battle. But yeah, let's hope he can do well next season. Let's move on to the midfield. And I think there's a lot of interesting storylines. Let's start with Tchouaméni. I was really worried about Tchouaméni. Judging by what I said at the start of the season, I was really worried about his development. He, in my opinion, he hadn't really developed since he joined us from Monaco. But this second half of the season has been really convincing. I think he's been really good. And his tracking, which is his main issue in my opinion, I think has improved so much. He is not a liability defensively anymore. He is a monster that we wanted him to be, and I think he's got much better in possession as well. So I'm really happy with how Tchouaméni has done this season. That's a keep for me, 100%. Same with Fede. I don't think we need to talk about Fede and Jude as well. Jude and Fede, 100% keep. Eduardo Camavinga, it hasn't been the greatest of seasons for Camavinga, but that being said, I'm still 100% keeping. I want to see him under a different manager. We haven't seen him under a different manager other than Carlo Ancelotti. So maybe the next manager is someone who can help Camavinga. And we're talking about Xabi Alonso. Potentially Camavinga can do what Granit Xhaka did at Bayer Leverkusen, but to another level. And I think I'm really excited to see how Camavinga can play next season. And hopefully he can finally take that next step to being a world-class midfielder that he was promised to be from age 16. It feels like such a long time ago, where Camavinga was that kid at Rennes that was dominating against PSG in that Ligue 1 game. I remember seeing the compilation a couple of years ago, and that was 6 years ago now. It's crazy, but hopefully he can do that and he can make that step forward. Dani Ceballos, this season has been his best season around Madrid by far. It's a really good season. That being said, he is very injury prone, and we can't rely on Dani Ceballos as a starter. In my opinion, you can't rely on him as the main cog to your system, which Ancelotti did, and really bit us in the arse at the end of the season, to be honest. And then Dani Ceballos 100% a keep, and then Luka Modric. A lot of people have been talking about Modric this being his last season. I think I don't see a reason why not to keep Luka Modric, in my opinion. I don't see why you just let him go, because he's been, he hasn't been the same Luka Modric, but he's 39. He's 39 and he's still managed to actually give us some really good performances this season. So I don't mind keeping him as a squad player, as a guy to come off the bench. Obviously, if he's blocking minutes for Arda Güler, let's say, then I think it's a release. But I think whatever minutes that Arda gets at this point is on him. So for me, I think Luka Modric is also a keep. So what are your thoughts on those 6 guys that I just mentioned?
For me, keep for all 6 for maybe all the similar reasons that you gave. But let me just dive deeper into Luka Modric. I don't think Luka Modric is blocking minutes of Arda Güler. That's just Ancelotti being Ancelotti, in my opinion. As you can see, Arda Güler is doing well now, and Modric isn't playing. Ancelotti just didn't prioritize Güler for whatever reason, whether it was poor form or not, or whatever. He didn't give Güler the minutes he deserved. And now Güler is getting them in big games, and commend Ancelotti for that. But Modric has nothing to do with Arda Güler. They can put them in the same team, and Güler can just be given more prominence than Luka Modric, in my opinion. It was just Ancelotti's choice. So for me, I don't think they should like affect each other. So in relation to Luka Modric, it's a keep for me. If 18-year-old from Castilla or 18-year-old signing plays like how Luka Modric's been playing, we will be begging for him to stay and get more minutes. But so I think Luka Modric just has to understand his role with the squad, his title with the squad, and we will be fine. If he wants to stay one more year, after 40 years for everything Modric has done for Madrid, that's a small favour Real Madrid should give him. He's the best midfielder in football history, in my opinion. So that's because I am judging from, let's say, 20 here when I started analysing football a bit more seriously. Maybe 2012, 2013 to now, I think he's been the best. I'm not going to say football history, I will take that back, because I haven't seen all the midfielders analyze them like I'm doing, like Luka Modric and Toni Kroos and Iniesta and all these guys, But, if he wants one more, he's shown that he has a level to be important in a lot of matches this season. Danny Ceballos, we can't rely on him to be a starter, so we need another midfielder who can perform his functions. So I think Danny Ceballos, yes, he's important, but his injury is similar to Mendy, not as bad as Mendy, but I think we can't rely on him because he's been getting injured a lot. Let's not forget last season he had those problems as well. He had a good season in 22-23 as well. Of course, in the 21-22 season he was injured a lot, so he's been having these problems consistently. He's a good important player, but I don't think we can depend on him as much as we would have liked to. If he was fully fit, he's a starter for me, and then you can see. But we don't need another midfielder. We need a young guy, but now we need a more recognized guy because we're not too sure his fitness. Germany, Camavinga, you are totally right about the analysis on both of them. So there's not much I need to add. I don't want to sound too repetitive. But William Bellingham under a new manager, I think Kian Sabani in managing Madrid, and he's a guy who I listen to a lot. I said that the biggest thing of Ancelotti this season has been the misuse of Camavinga and Valverde. Of Jude and Valverde, my apologies, when they have just been workhorses for the team instead of putting them in their best positions to bring the best for Madrid. I think, that's disappointing. Hopefully under a new manager, Xabi Alonso, Jurgen Klopp, whoever it might be, most likely Xabi Alonso, that they will have a better prominence in the team in terms of being more important. They're important now, but they're important for incorrect reasons, and they're still putting in goals and assists and being important because they're that good. Imagine if we prioritize them a bit more. And then that means I'm jumping an attacker, I'm all for it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I would prioritize Jude and Valverde over the attacking tree. I know that is a bit of a bold statement to make, but they have shown me more over the past 2 seasons than all of Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo. I've been clear on every time we have had a podcast that I believe that Jude was the one who should have won the Ballon d'Or over Rodri and even Vinicius. I love Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Mbappe. I do like them. I wish that they could have made it work, but they didn't. In my opinion, Jude and Valverde have shown more than they did this season. And if you ask me, Jude or Vinicius, Valverde, Vinicius, Jude Mbappe, Valverde, Mbappe, Jude, Rodrigo, Valverde, Rodrigo, I'll choose the midfielders anytime. I'm not saying that it's easy to replace Vinicius or Mbappe or Rodrigo, but I think for the long term of the club, you're not going to get another player like Jude Bellingham or Fede Valverde in this team ever again. In my opinion, you can easily compensate. You can compensate because the front three is so similar and where they occupy spaces that you can kind of replace them. They have similar traits and characteristics. You lose Jude, you lose a lot. You lose Valverde, you lose a lot. Yes, you can get another workhorse, another box midfielder, but not as good as them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to that point as well, for Jude and Valverde, when it came down to it, when it came down to the big game and who needed to step up in that Copa del Rey final, who really stepped up and stepped to the plate and actually played their best game? In my opinion, that was only Jude and Federico Valverde, and potentially Tchouaméni as well. That was the biggest game they could have played, and both of them stepped up. And I think it's very clear that they are the most consistent players on this team. They're consistently giving it their all. And like you said, if Jude's playing at his best, and if Jude is the centerpiece of the team, then he is the best player on the pitch. There is no doubt about it. He was on the pitch with Vinicius, with Mbappe, with Rodrigo, with Lamine Yamal, with Rafinha, with Pedri, and Jude Bellingham was far and away the best player on that damn pitch. And that he should 100% be looked at as the star central piece of Real Madrid next season. Hopefully he can be more than just a runner in that team next year under Xabi Alonso, and I really hope Xabi Alonso harnesses that, because what Jude Bellingham can do. He is the best player on the pitch. I think hopefully he can do that next season. That being said, let's move on to the attackers. There's been a lot of talk about the attackers this season, a lot of criticism for a lot of these guys. Let's start with Vinicius. I think it's been a really poor season for Vinicius. The start of the season was really great when Mbappe was playing horribly, and then right around Ballon d'Or time, that's when things just start to fall apart. And I just don't know what's happened to Vinicius mentally, but it's very clear he needs some different guidance, because right now what he's getting from Carlo Ancelotti just isn't enough for him. He needs some tactical discipline, I think. He's trying to take on too many guys at this point. He's trying to prove himself too much when he's proved himself over the last 3 years to be such an impactful winger. He needs to do less, and that's a lot to say for someone who missed out on the Ballon d'Or just by a little bit.
Yeah.
But he needs to do less.
Exactly.
He needs to do less.
Before we move on to the players that we just mentioned, Vinicius, I think when he was with Benzema, it was better. He played better, even better than last year. Forget the Ballon d'Or season. Last year, he was better with Benzema, because with Benzema, he simplified the game. Simple. With Benzema there, the attackers had no choice but to simplify the game, because it's Benzema. He makes things easier for everyone. Now without Benzema, without like a striker like that, and because of course Jude normally comes from behind, and not really as the striker. Vinicius maybe, I would say, sometimes does what he wants. I want it to work out good, but there are sometimes when he can just simplify his game to make it easier, like you said. Of course the loss of Benzema maybe has felt a bit this season, a bit more than last season, because Jude didn't have much prominence as he did. But Vinicius just needs to simplify his game a bit and do the simple things. Yes, the extravagant things are amazing, and we want him to continue that, because that's his unique ability. I've constantly said that when I started this page. When he lost the ball a lot, he kept trying, and that's what I loved about him. But at least when he kept trying, he also tried to include his teammates as well, and that's honestly all we want. Similar to look at the goal Mbappe scored over the weekend. He one touch to Bellingham to Mbappe. That's how we want him to play. Against Celta Vigo. For that goal, he has those moments to see, but sometimes he just tries to do too much. I think that's hidden a little bit, but he's still amazing.
Yeah, and I think we're going to say the same thing. Rodrigo has been really bad over the last few months, just invisible, and he's asking for a new contract. I'm not giving him that new contract because he just hasn't deserved it. But I've got no opposition to keeping Rodrigo next season, because I think he's only been a significant player since Ancelotti's come in. So I want to see him play under a different manager and potentially play different. And hopefully, Xabi Alonso can unlock a different player than Rodrigo, because if he doesn't, well, that's Rodrigo to Manchester City at the end of next season. So I think Rodrigo needs to really step up next season, but I'm 100% keeping Rodrigo alongside Vinicius. I forgot to say I'm keeping Vinicius, because he's still my guy. He's still the guy that led this team to 2 Champions Leagues. I'm still going to have confidence that Vinicius can step up. He's faced adversity before. I've got no reason to believe that Vinicius can't come through this bad patch as well. And then Arda over the last few weeks has been incredible. Hopefully next season is the season where he really makes that step up. I think just his confidence levels look through the roof right now. He looks fantastic. His goal against Celta, I think, it just signifies that. Hopefully he plays on the weekend in El Clasico, starts that game, and hopefully Arda really makes an impact next season as a starting player. I think under Xabi, I think that can definitely happen. But Arda's proven he can be a very, very impactful player. Kylian Mbappe, of course, it's a keep. I mean, he's had some very good moments, and let's not forget he scored 35 goals this season. We criticise Mbappe so much, but he is still a ridiculous goal scorer, and he's done that this season. Obviously, we want him to step up in those big games, because he just hasn't done that this season. But let's hope he can do that next season with a little bit more help from Vinicius, a little bit more help from Rodrigo in these big games, and hopefully they can mesh much better. And I think that we can definitely demand that from them. Brahim Diaz, there's been a lot of talk about Brahim Diaz over the last few weeks since the El Clasico fuck up, where he just totally gave away the ball like an idiot. I'm very sad that people just look at that and say Brahim Diaz out. As he's given us great output over these last few seasons, and I'm 100%. I want to keep Brahim Diaz next season as well. I think to have him as a squad player is such a luxury, and imagine who you're going to bring in for that price. There's nobody who's going to do that Brahim Diaz role as well as he does. So why would you sell him? I don't see the reason why you'd want to sell him. So 100% key for Brahim Diaz. And then finally, Endrick. A lot of talk about potential loan. I think under a different manager with some different guidance, I think he can definitely be a bit smarter as a player. So next season, go again, and hopefully he can do well next season under Xabi Alonso. And 100% keep for Endrick. So at the end of it, I've said keep for almost every single player, but I think all of these guys deserve a second chance. All of these young guys deserve a second chance under Xabi Alonso next season. A different manager, a different system, and a different way of playing things. I think they all deserve it. So, what are your thoughts on the attackers to finish off?
Yeah, I share the same sentiments as you, to be honest. Not much I would change. Just say what I would add, at least, is with Rodrigo and Vinicius, we want them to stay just like the other players, just like Mbappe. But I think with Rodrigo, of course, the challenges people have been saying with Vinicius, Mbappe play the position that he's playing in, then we will struggle. Yes, that is correct. But the thing about it is that Mbappe and Vinicius has a higher ceiling or higher output than Rodrigo. Rodrigo is good, but of course they are so much. I'm not saying they're so much better than him, but they are at a higher level than whether we like it or not, or whether he likes it or not. The coaches will see it that way, the club see it that way. So of course he has to compensate his game. If he cannot compensate his game, then he has to then be the backup player for them, or the one of the bench, or the excellent squad player like what Diaz is. So yes, I want him in the squad, but if he doesn't accept it, then for the best of him, if he wants a position where he's going to get more permanence, then I understand if he leaves. But I understand the situation a lot. He's not playing his best position. Yeah, sometimes right midfield, right wing. Left wing and striker when the other is not playing. So I understand his position. But it's just how it is. The other two is of course better, and they'll be prioritized more in that position. It's just the harsh reality for him. So it's just how it goes. Unfortunately. Other players, I share the same sentiments that you did. Hopefully under a more dynamic coach in the system with more verticality and more, let's say, more opportunities to play the ball and have the ball, it would be better for them. Brahim, one mistake. Yesterday, of course, he made mistakes throughout the season, but this one was a big one. Everyone makes mistakes, and it's difficult to accept it in the moment, but he's a good player for us, and hopefully he can bounce back from this and not let this affect him, because he's done more than that one mistake. He scored a goal against Atletico Madrid to make it 2-1, the solo goal. He's done well for us. He scored the goal against Leipzig last year. He's also done well in other big games. So a good player, a good guy. Hopefully it doesn't affect him.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, I don't want to lose faith in him after just one horrible moment for him. He definitely knows it. I don't think we need to tell him. He's not one of those guys that goal's going to get through to him. He's going to understand the magnitude of that goal. So, I think he's definitely going to be affected by that, and I hope it doesn't affect him too much. But that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the keep or sell. Do you disagree with anything that we said? Have we made some ridiculous? Maybe do you want to sell Vinicius? Do you want to sell Mbappe? Let me know down in the comments. I'll reply to anyone there. But that is it for today. I'll see you guys later. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.